Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Maxwell School Convocation. I'm Dean Jim Steinberg, and it's my privilege to welcome our most recent graduates, as well as their families and their friends, the Maxwell faculty who are here to join us today, and the staff, and our many alumni and supporters. This is a wonderful occasion, not just for the newly minted graduate degree students who have worked hard to reach this day, but also for their families, who I know share a sense of pride and no small measure of relief on this occasion. So I'd ask you to join me in a round of applause for the families who supported our graduates. As most of you know, I've just completed my second year here at Maxwell. And over these past 2 years, I've had the opportunity to experience firsthand what a remarkable community this is, and the special commitment embodied in our name, the commitment we have to citizenship and public service on the local, state, national, and international level. I'm especially pleased to see what a diverse community we are, and with us today are students from around the country and around the world. And I'm confident that armed with the Maxwell skills and the Maxwell spirit that you've gained during your time here, you, in all the different ways that you will choose to do it, will change the world for the better. Now, though today in our ceremony we'll hand out degrees only for some of our degree programs, I want to take this opportunity to pay tribute to all of our graduates, including our MPA students who will graduate in June, and our over 400 graduating undergraduate majors at Maxwell, some of whom are with us today. This is another aspect of our broad diversity of our community, of graduates and undergraduates, of professional and academic degree candidates across a wide range of disciplines that makes Maxwell unique. After today, you are all valued members of our most remarkable alumni network, and we hope that you will all stay connected and stay involved. Next year, Maxwell will mark our 90th year since our founding, and I hope all of you, newly minted alumni and all the rest, will help us celebrate this milestone and share with us your ideas on how most fittingly to mark this occasion. Today, we begin the program with our student speaker, Raymond Kaniu. Raymond, who's a native of Central Kenya, is a master's degree candidate in international relations. During his time at Maxwell, he served as a university senator for both the University Senate and the Graduate Student Organization. He was part and co-founder of the Master's Committee that changed the structure of the board in the GSO to include master's students in programs that are less than 2 years, thereby creating a voice for students in such programs campus-wide. He made Maxwell history by becoming the first student to be selected as a future U.S. leader by the Association of Professional Schools of International Affairs and the Japan Foundation Center for Global Partnership. Most of his evenings are spent here in the city of Syracuse, volunteering for AmeriCorps, which earned him special recognition from Mayor Stephanie Miner for national service. To quote from his faculty recommendation for student speaker, Ray is determined to work for increased democracy and respect for human rights in Africa, and I have little doubt that one day he will be a forceful, progressive leader in Kenya, be it government, civil society, or the private sector. It seems clear that his overriding desire is to help others, and that is why he is studying leadership now, and why he aspires to serve his countrymen as a responsible, difference-making leader. So let me ask you to take your seats and join me in welcoming our student speaker.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, our honorable speaker, Samantha Power, Dean Steinberg, faculty, staff, and the entire Maxwell administration. Allow me to begin by congratulating the promising class of 2013. Against all odds, including that persistent Syracuse winter, we have made it. It almost feels like yesterday when it all began. We were neophytes, convinced of our resolve to finish what will become our passionate affair at Maxwell. Like any other passion, we had our moments that filled the spectrum that runs from discontentment to satisfaction. We arrived from all corners of the world, bringing vast experiences from our respective fields and adding on to a Maxwell legacy that boasts some of the best leaders the world has ever seen. Our feet have graced the paths of Maxwell and Eggers, our time generously spent in the academic village, grad bays, and inside the bowels of the university's most enchanting buildings, while our nights were spent drowning in research papers. However, as William Henley eloquently puts it, in the fell clutch of circumstance, we neither winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, our heads are bloody, but unbowed. Thankfully, through our interactions, we cultivated relationships and gathered invaluable information that will last a lifetime. For that, we are forever in your debt. A closer examination will reveal that though I come from a small village in central Kenya, my story is not that different from yours. Our paths leading to this very moment bear common threads of submission, self-denial, and diligent work. The terrible conditions of rural Africa exposed me to a seasoned taste of survival, bearing witness to the calamities and disparities of my fellow people. Taking the trusted advice of my late grandfather, I subjected myself to the instructions of a scholarly order, gathering enough information through school and traditional channels. While shepherding livestock, I sought refuge in the pages of books and in the expanse of the savannah, and shared my evenings by crackling fires, listening to the elders. The proverbial child raised by a village, I saw the sacrifice that my family gave so that I could have what was denied to them. Their sacrifice weighs heavily on my shoulders, and a victory for me is a victory for them. It is for this reason that we share this very moment with those whose unrelenting and undying support has got us to this very point. Indeed, the theater of life is never short on spectacles, a bit of everything to test each individual's strength, from the burst of laughter to the agony of tears, divinely constructed to serve as lessons for the nearest observer and self. We have got into the habit of strongly identifying with these scenes, but are careful not to overlap our experiences with those of others, forgetting that we are all subject to the same conditions. Look at the world around us. It is changing more rapidly than we can adjust to meet the challenges such as corruption, famines, natural disasters, climate change, and the duality of technological and innovational advancement. Nevertheless, there is an opportunity to work together. Connectivity is guaranteed in our generation, from social media to the global stock markets. Yet, for all the great things technology can do, it still cannot make our choices for us. Our generation will be challenged more than any other before us. Don't we owe it to ourselves and to those who will come after us to leave this world a better place than we found it? Marie Curie, survivor in her own right during harsher times, intoned that nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. We all play an integral part of our society, and in the midst of dire circumstances, much more will be demanded from us. As we part ways, it leads me to wonder, are we part and parcel of this fabric that has taken years to weave? Are we the very strands that enter into the complex tapestry of our future? Time will weigh our actions, but my dear friends, what are our actions if they bear no fruits, and what are our motives if they are not pure? Let it be our greatest desire to be vessels of change, voices for the weak, and champions of equality. I am compelled to reach out to you just like I reached out to my fellow graduates last year, because most of the things I said still ring true. I echo Balzac's sentiments when he said that to know the infinite of our deepest feelings, we must in youth cast our lead into those great shores upon whose lakes we live in. Therefore, as we stand here today to endure yet another trial, we must be aware of the world in which we have been thrust into. A world ripe with change, begging for great representation, wisdom, and the right dose of mental toughness to lead us to the next phase. We are students and citizens of the world, and as such, no one should be absolved from the responsibility to act. A German poet and diplomat once said that if you treat An individual as he is, he will remain as he is. But if you treat him as if he were what he ought and could be, he will become what he ought to be and could be. Finally, I urge you all to apply yourselves unsparingly and affirm, as Hemingway did, that there is nothing noble in being superior to your fellow men. True nobility is being superior to your former self. It is an honor to share this day with you. Let us in unison proudly raise the flag of victory. We deserve every second of this joyous occasion. Gather yourselves. These moments define us. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. Truly inspiring. Now it's my great privilege to introduce our convocation speaker, Samantha Power. Samantha, of course, is a Pulitzer Prize-winning author, a journalist, a scholar, an advocate, and a public servant. I had the privilege of serving with her for the first 2.5 years of the Obama administration, where she was Special Assistant to President Obama and Senior Director for Multilateral Affairs. She began with outstanding academic credentials, although I'm sorry to say in the wrong order, Yale and Harvard Law School. Although she has no direct Syracuse connection, at least one article about her asserts that her early ambition was to follow in the footsteps of our own Bob Costas. Her career embodies all the values we strive to instill at Maxwell: a commitment to excellence, a desire to serve the public interest, and a passion to make a difference. At Harvard, she was the founder of the Carr Center on Human Rights. Her book, The Problem from Hell, raised global consciousness about the failures of US policy to address genocide. But rather than stand on the sidelines and point fingers, Samantha later went on to work in the Obama administration, where she not only played a key role in shaping US policy on important human rights challenges, such as Sudan and Libya, but also led the way in fashioning President Obama's Open Government Partnership, an innovative strategy to build new international coalitions around transparency and good governance. To hear all she's achieved, you'd think she was a typical type A Washington 24/7 type. But far from it. After all, she is Irish, and she's had the good sense to be a rabid Red Sox fan. A few years back, she and her husband, Cass Sunstein, who is with us today, who also served in the Obama administration as the head of OIRA. And for those of you who aren't schooled in the ways of Washington acronyms, that's the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs. They were called the, and I quote, fun couple of the 21st century by Esquire magazine, which I suspect at least some of you think beats even a Pulitzer. I'm grateful for both of them for taking time away from their young children to be with us today and to celebrate this special occasion with you. Samantha?
Thank you so much, Dean Steinberg. Thank you, Raymond, for your inspirational words, and thank all of you for coming to celebrate the Maxwell graduates today, and thank you, Maxwell graduates, for graduating. I'm very honored to be here today. I've never been to Maxwell before, so in preparing my remarks, I relied on the very sophisticated research skills that I acquired while I was serving as a professor at Harvard's Kennedy School. I Googled, and the first thing that leaped out at me on the Maxwell website was that you were consistently ranked first in the US News and World Report rankings in graduate schools. Now, being a biased former Kennedy School professor, I thought maybe consistently ranked meant once ranked, like once a while ago. So I upped my Googling game and I went to the US News and World Report website, and there you were right at the top of the site, best public affairs school, #1, best. And I thought, dang, no wonder they managed to snag the Deputy Secretary of State of the United States of America. We should have known in Washington that you didn't steal one of Washington's hottest power couples by bragging about the Syracuse weather. Reading through the convocation program, which you have in your hands today, you graduates give off one overriding impression: seriousness. You are serious, serious people. I was privileged to attend serious schools for college and for law school, but it was only here today, indeed minutes ago, that I learned the word agglomeration. Raise your hand if you know what the word agglomeration means. All right, show-offs. This just goes to show that one of us does not have a Maxwell degree. The range of topics captured in the list of dissertations, again, that you'll see in your program, speak to the intellectual diversity of the Maxwell experience. You have in your midst, somewhere out there, an expert on the causes and consequences of the 1733 slave rebellion in the Virgin Islands, an expert on the effects of oil extraction on indigenous people in Ecuador, an expert on the roots of the women's movement in the Czech Republic and in Chile, an expert on Richard Nixon's track record in controlling illicit substances, an expert on the charitable practices of Lebanese Shia, and an expert on how non-governmental organizations react when donors change their minds and choose new causes. That's serious, serious stuff. Maxwell's motto is a moving one, etched into the lobby of Maxwell Hall and reproduced on the program. 2 lines stand out for me in particular. 1, we will unceasingly seek to quicken the sense of public duty. Unceasingly seek to quicken the sense of public duty. And we will transmit this city not only not less, but greater, better, and more beautiful than it was transmitted to us. We will transmit this city not only not less, but greater, better, and more beautiful than it was transmitted to us. Here's the good news. In the United States and around the world, there is a thick and durable sense of public duty. All across this country and beyond, in the coming days, there will be people like you getting higher degrees in public policy, public administration, and international affairs. And they aren't getting these degrees because they can't find jobs or don't know what to do next. Well, maybe a few can't get jobs and don't know what to do next. But most have pursued these higher degrees because they, like you, simply want to be armed with the best possible tools to promote the public good. They want to develop an A game. And while I know that in a tough job market, the other graduates out there can feel like your competitors for scarce opportunities to do good, they are in fact your future teammates and your future collaborators. I can tell you that the thing you most want when you're fighting the good fight is colleagues who have an A game. Those who know the difference between a tight argument and a loose one, between factors that are correlative and those that are consequential. You are those people. And there are an encouraging number similarly motivated. Indeed, I would go so far as to say that the most important division in the world is not between rich and poor, between East and West, between North and South, between people who believe the Big East should have lived on and those who think it should have died years ago. The world is divided between those focused mainly on their own fates and those who see their fates as tied to others. Those who are determined to leave the world greater, better, and more beautiful. In the latter group are those who have that quickening sense of public duty and who refuse to allow the destiny of the metaphorical city, whether a school, a neighborhood, a nonprofit, a government, a business, or a planet, to be left to chance. And look at what those people have achieved. I got my graduate degree, a law degree, in 1999. That year, supporting civil unions for LGBT persons was a taboo. Today, 11 states have legalized gay marriage, and I will say that that number was 10 when I first wrote this draft, and then I had to change it at the last minute to 11 because I think Delaware followed this week. More will, of course, follow still. Around the world, there are countless examples of individual dignity prevailing over those who would negate it. In 1999, when the tiny island nation of East Timor voted for independence, the Timorese were savagely attacked and the country was burnt to the ground. A UN-led force intervened, and José Ramos Horta, the Nobel Prize-winning exile and crusader for independence, became prime minister of that country. That was inspiring enough. But more recently, Ramos Horta completed his terms in office in East Timor and took up the job of serving as the UN Secretary General's envoy to Guinea-Bissau, a war-torn, poverty-stricken country that he is uniquely positioned to advise. It's no secret that Ireland, which happens to be the country where I lived until I was 9, suffered centuries of occupation and oppression. When I was growing up, the mere mention of the British monarchy drew curses and rage. Yet last year, for the first time, Queen Elizabeth traveled to Ireland to pay her respects, and when she did, the country ground to a halt, mesmerized by a royal that they had once ridiculed. And in Burma, a steel-willed lady emerged from 2 decades of house arrest, and after a landslide election victory, she took her place in the parliament as the leader of the opposition. Now, all you may not end up making headline-grabbing change of this nature, like some of these individuals, but look behind each one of the stories that I've just told you. Marriage equality became the signature civil rights issue of our time because of the activism of LGBT persons across this fine land, like those who this year set up the first LGBT chapter at Maxwell. But it also came about because straight people joined them in insisting that equality meant little if it did not mean equality for everybody. Look at the New York Senate Republican Roy McDonald, a Vietnam combat vet, who said in announcing his surprise vote for gay marriage, quote, "I'm tired of Republican and Democrat politics. They can take the job and shove it. I come from a blue-collar background. I'm just trying to do the right thing." How did East Timor, that little country, become independent and then go on to lend to the United Nations one of its favorite sons? Mainly thanks to the brave persistence of the Timorese people, but also because taxpayers in countries like the United States have, year after year, been willing to support the cause of peace far from our shores. The Queen could receive a hero's welcome in Ireland, partly because she was willing to acknowledge the ghosts of the past, but also because the Irish people decided it was time to look beyond their pain. And Aung San Suu Kyi will rule Burma someday because when the proud people of that country were denied their rights in 1991, they refused to accept the status quo imposed upon them. Aung San Suu Kyi was the symbol and the catalyst for Burma's change, but the Burmese people were the force behind it. The historic events that I have described happened because here and around the world, people took seriously Louis Brandeis's great notion, quote, "The only title in our democracy superior to that of president is the title of citizen," end quote. Leaders may define history, but it is citizens who make history. Now, the news around the world today is not all good, which is why you all entering it is so important. We're seeing a surge in isolationism. Here in the United States, it is fueled by the economic crisis and the understandable fatigue with recent wars. We are also seeing a palpable cynicism, which starts with a mistrust of government, but which quickly becomes a lack of trust in all institutions and in all efforts to make the world better. What's more disturbing still is that insularity and mistrust are increasingly accompanied by people's refusal to believe facts that don't conform to their ideological predispositions. In short, there are growing signs that we, and that I mean all of us, have started cherry-picking facts we find convenient and that we have stopped learning. So how do you, with your determination to leave the city greater, better, and more beautiful, break through all of this and make the difference you came to Maxwell in order to make? I have 3 humble suggestions. First, know something about something. Martha Gellhorn, the legendary war correspondent, used to say, "Citizenship is a tough occupation." It is tough to be a responsible citizen, and it is tougher still to be an effective one. Those who succeed in making what Steve Jobs memorably once called a ding in the world, those who succeed don't bring one-size-fits-all solutions. They know every crevice, every pore, every pothole in the city they seek to mend. They have a toolbox bursting at the seams. Maybe they speak a language or more than one language. Maybe they know the economic history of a place. They've certainly read everything there is to read. They've gone deep. The enemy of impact is superficiality. Though there are exceptions out there, very few of us can make a difference if we are spread thin. Knowing something about something means knowing you can't know everything. If you know only a little about a lot, the city is likely to look the same after you're done. Knowing something about something is also a balm to ideology. The least attractive and least effective approach to problem solving is what's called motivated reasoning. You know where you want to end up ideologically, so you filter out information that doesn't get you there. Daniel Moynihan, one of the spirits who inhabits Maxwell's halls, was famous for never letting ideology get in the way. He once said harshly, "The liberal project began to fail when it began to lie." He argued that on some issues, progressives had stopped asking hard questions, stopped testing original assumptions to see whether they still held, started dodging inconvenient facts and hard truths. Knowing something about something requires more than technical mastery. It requires an open mind. My second tip is my favorite. Never, ever, ever compare your insides to somebody else's outsides. Let me draw again on Daniel Moynihan. Many of you know that he was one of the greatest legislators, thinkers, and statesmen in American history. What you probably do not know is that he was often racked with self-doubt. He was offered an academic job at the University of Chicago, but he didn't think he could handle it. He wrote in his journal, quote, "I am not their equal. Were I to settle among them, they would find it out, and I would know that they had, and that would make it a waste for everyone," end quote. Now, if you had seen Moynihan, you would have seen a man brimming with conviction and self-confidence, but you would have been seeing only his outsides. My best friend in the world, John Prendergast, the great human rights advocate, and I call our heads bat caves. Yes, from Batman. Because we are in our heads so often that sometimes it's hard to concentrate with all the bats swarming around. I'll tell you a little story from government. Soon after candidate Obama won the election in November 2008, I was offered, as Jim mentioned, my dream job to serve President Barack Obama and to help him implement his vision for multilateral affairs, human rights, and the prevention of mass atrocity from the White House. As they say, OMG. When I arrived in Washington with my campaign teammates, I was no newer to my job than many of my peers, but they had these purposeful, directed strides while I staggered around, bewildered by the bureaucracy. I hadn't been there very long when I had my first meeting with President Obama in the Oval Office. Since my own office was not that far away, I left myself 5 minutes to get there. The only trouble was I couldn't find the Oval. Nobody passed out maps of the West Wing. So I went online, again, using my famed Googling skills, and I printed out a small map from the Washington Post website of the West Wing. But it wasn't drawn to scale, and I ended up on the third floor when the Oval, which is actually quite hard to miss, was on the second. And by the time I found my way, I was late to my first meeting with the President of the United States. I was also 7 months pregnant at the time, so I was breathless and I was discombobulated. And when I walked in, the National Security Advisor and the Deputy National Security Advisor were already seated, impatient. I sat down awkwardly, and I set down the water bottle that every pregnant woman keeps nearby and tried to catch my breath before I had to start briefing. Unfortunately, as soon as my battered Poland Springs bottle touched the surface of the centuries-old coffee table in front of me, an aide reached over my shoulder and removed the unsanitary item from the view of the 44th President of the United States. Now, at the time, I thought this was a truly exceptional and exceptionally horrible experience. But it turns out that every single one of my colleagues has told me a version of the story I have just told you, perhaps minus the pregnancy flourishes. When you get out into the real world, it is easy to believe that you, and only you, are the one that doesn't belong. When you join the Environmental Protection Agency, when you take the Foreign Service exam, when you return to your country to start your own business, or, I hope, run for public office, when you walk into a philanthropist's office and make a pitch to raise money to launch your new NGO, and you feel unsafe or unsure, and when everybody else seems to be totally sure of themselves, remember you're only seeing their outsides. There could be a fleet of bats inside. Maybe that understanding will inspire not only a degree of calmness, but also a compassion for others. Every one of you out there has a backstory, and maybe a bat cave. My third and last piece of advice, these degrees are throbbing here, waiting for you, is the most important. Make sure to get a life. I recently left the White House after 4 long years. I had given birth to 2 children while working 7 days a week at the National Security Council, and I was eager to spend real time with them. I got to witness and to work on amazing events in those 4 years. On President Obama's direction, as Dean Steinberg mentioned, the United States launched this formidable anti-corruption initiative called the Open Government Partnership. We successfully pressed for the creation of the new country of South Sudan. We supported the historic democratic change in Burma, and we intervened to prevent a massacre in Libya. As I cleaned out my office and I filed my emails and papers away, however, what moved me most were not the fact sheets and the artifacts of the real-world history that President Obama and his team helped to shape. It was the little Post-it notes and the emails that I had received from my husband, Cass Sunstein, who worked around the hall for me at OIRA as the regulatory czar. These were notes he left on my desk before I gave birth in April 2009. I will say my water broke during the president's remarks on Holocaust Remembrance Day. Notes Cass emailed me after the president delivered rousing addresses before the UN General Assembly. Notes he sent me the weekend Gaddafi fell. Or notes he texted me as I insisted on blackberrying on Middle East peace issues as my contractions for my second child began to make it difficult to type. My point here is simple. Not just another excuse to talk about Cass and how lucky I am, but changing the world is hard. Most of the time, one doesn't get exactly what one wants. That's the deal. That's part of the deal. And you should know that as you go forth. But having the right people in your corner is game-changing. People with whom you can share the grimy details of the day-to-day, who will listen when the city seems to be getting not better and more beautiful, but worse and more tear-stained. You have those people in your corner today. They're here. They're celebrating you. But try not to forget that as important as it is to share moments like this that appear on the highlight reel, it is even more important to have corner men and corner women on the occasions you are pushing water uphill or your faith is wavering. I wish you well, Maxwell graduates. The city that awaits your care has wonderful qualities, but it is in some ways a little bit of a fixer-upper. You have all it takes to be the change you seek. You have that quickened sense of public duty. You have the knowledge and the practical tools that Maxwell has given you. You have bat spray for the bats. And most important of all, you have the co-conspirators, the friends, and the family who will have your backs on the occasions when history doesn't bend quite your way. We are counting on you, and all of us here today thank you in advance for the more beautiful city that we know you will leave behind. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good advice. At this point, I would like to introduce our Senior Associate Dean, Mike Waslenko, who will recognize the PhD candidates for 2013. But before I do, and I know Mike thinks there's probably a statute of limitations on my thanking him for his service to the school, but I think all of you know, as I appreciate probably more than any, the extraordinary commitment and contribution that Mike makes every day to making this an exciting, dynamic, and successful institution. So as Mike rises to introduce them, let's give him a round of applause, please.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. That was very nice. And thank you, Samantha. That was a wonderful speech. Every year, each department is asked to review its dissertations from its candidates and to select a special one for recognition. And those winners are awarded an Outstanding Dissertation Prize, and I wish to acknowledge them here one at a time. For anthropology, Holly Norton. Advisor, Douglas Armstrong. Title of the dissertation, Estate by Estate, The Landscape of the 1733 St. John's Slave Rebellion. Congratulations. Economics, Jing Li. Advisor, Professor Stuart Rosenthal. Title, Essays on Agglomeration, Access to Healthcare, and the Real Estate Market. Geography, Keith Lindner. Advisor, Thomas Perot. Title, Returning the Commons, Resource Access and the Environmental Governance in San Luis, Colorado. History, Shimoy Roy Chowdhury. Advisor, Shubho Basu. Title, Engrafting Modernity, Medical Professionalism in 19th Century Bengal. Political Science, Eric Rittinger. Advisor, Audi Klotz. titled The Risks of Outstanding Security, Foreign Security Forces in the United States National Security Policy. Public Administration and International Affairs, Il-Wan Chung. Advisor, Professor William Duncombe. Title, Education Finance Reform, School Choice, and Residential Sorting. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge Professor Duncombe for his special contributions. He is not with us. He is gravely ill and a dear colleague of ours. Social Science, Sarah Marusik. Advisor, Don Mitchell. Faith, Religious Rationality and Resistance, the Charitable Practice of Shia Movements in Lebanon. And Sociology, Megan Bonds. Advisor, Andrew London. Gender Regimes in Finance, the Social Organization of Money Work. Please have a round of applause for these doctoral prize winners. At this point, it's my honor to welcome the PhD students and master's students to come forward, and Ann Wicks will orchestrate this, and you will be recognized. Thank you. Doctoral students first, Amy Roche Fedchenko, Anthropology. Holly Norton, Anthropology. Megan Bonds, Sociology. Glenda Gross, Sociology. Yen Fang, Economics. Chen Xiao, Economics. Willie Reddick, Economics. Allison Marrier, Economics. Wael Musa, Economics.
And now for the master's candidates, Raymond Kaniu. Selena Carter. Monique Posadas. Wen Lee. Ya Jing Chin. Chi Lu Cheng. Laura Rodriguez. Odunayo Arawolo. Nan Diep. Soribel Feliz. Viviana Gari. Rogelio Granguillaume. Ibrahim El-Gandour. Leila Kabalan. Benjamin Elkonin. Aman Jain. Renee Husett. Bridget Fahey. Paulina Ishevitz. Julio Amador III. Chung Wen Chen. Bo Liu. Darajani Marcosashvili. Sari Dalal. Masanori Nakagawa. Jemakai Blyden. Stefania Coco Scalisi. Carlos Wong. Ege Sachikar. Megan Weaver. Lisa Marie Brandt. Yuko Shinohara. Olufemi Adedoyan. Corey Michael Kali. Joseph Jones Jr. James Steng. Rosa Vasilyeva. Cameo Chung. Blake Stillwell. Nadia Hakim. Dexter McKinney Jr. Roxanne Bauer. Mallory Hubble. Yevgenia Vyachaninova. David Chaplin II. Ryan J. Sudo.
Blessed Sikosana. Faith Nimina. Eugenia Platova. Jyoti Shahan. Sho Maruyama. Jonathan Schlosser. Enrique Huesca. Aliyah El-Shakli. Yashihiro Hashimoto. Shangyi Li. Irma Condoleezza. Eka Pahatashvili. Leah Mama Sharili. Nitin. Rentala Venkat. Amit Kaya. Alexandru Chabanu. Sergiu Convalu. Oleg Tofelat. Henish Pulikal. Jagadisan Kanan. Farhad Paikar. Parker Farrington. Savannah Chin. Elizabeth Maris. Rumen Park. Hiroki Taoka. Ben Wynn.
Well, if nothing else, just having a chance to see the graduates here really does bring you the sense of the diversity and the vibrant community, the global community that we're all now part of. And I want to pay special tribute to Nell and Margaret and others who helped make sure we got the names at least close to right. It's quite an achievement. You know, it was terrific that Samantha talked about Senator Moynihan in her remarks because, as you know, he holds a very special place at the Maxwell School. And as most of you know, he was a former junior faculty member here from 1959 to 1961. And in he was a faculty member here, and a former junior faculty member endowed the Moynihan, Daniel Patrick Moynihan Award to be presented annually to an outstanding untenured faculty member who excels in teaching, research, and service. And this award is the highest and most valuable recognition that we give to a junior Maxwell faculty member. And I'm especially pleased, I'm always pleased, to announce this year's award winner, and it is our own Tina Nabachi, Assistant Professor of Public Administration and International Affairs. Tina joined the Maxwell School in 2007, and she's known for her exceptional work in the classroom. Her teaching and research focus on citizen participation and deliberation, collaborative governance, conflict resolution, and challenges in public administration. Her research has been published in the leading academic journals in her field, as well as book chapters and standalone research reports. Her work is frequently cited, and she's in demand as a speaker at conferences held in the United States and in other countries as well. Her new co-edited book, Democracy in Motion, Evaluating the Practice and Impact of a Deliberative Civic Engagement, provides a comprehensive assessment of deliberative civic engagement. She also serves as a co-director of CNY Speaks, a Maxwell School project designed to engage residents of Central New York area on issues such as the revitalization of downtown, developing arts and entertainment, and civility in public discourse. If ever there were an example of scholarship in action, Tina really represents that. She's a tremendous contributor to every aspect of the life at the Maxwell School of Syracuse University in our community. So please once again join me in congratulating Tina. I also want to take this opportunity to recognize some other faculty members of the Maxwell community who were recognized for outstanding achievements over the past year. The 2013 Excellence in Graduate Education Faculty Recognition Award went to Matt Cleary, Associate Professor of Political Science, and Chris DeCourse, Professor of Anthropology, and Len Lupo, Associate Professor of Public Administration and International Affairs. So, round of applause for them. Well done. A substantial bequest from the estate of L. Douglas Meredith, who was a 1926 graduate of the College of Arts and Sciences, allowed for the creation of the Laura J. and L. Douglas Meredith professorships in 1995 to recognize and reward outstanding teaching at the university. The awards recognize and reward excellence in teaching, encourage faculty members to look upon the many dimensions of teaching as manifold opportunities for constant improvement, emphasize the great importance the university places upon teaching, and improve the teaching and learning processes on campus. And I was privileged to be there a couple of weeks ago when the Meredith Prizes were announced, and this year, our own John Western, Professor of Geography, was named a Meredith Professor for Teaching Excellence. So, to John. And in 2001, the Teaching Recognition Awards program was established through an expansion of the Meredith Professorship program. The Meredith professors themselves proposed the Teaching Recognition Award program to recognize excellence in teaching by non-tenured faculty and adjunct and part-time instructors. Recipients are selected for teaching innovation, effectiveness in communicating with students, and the lasting value of their courses. This year, two recipients from Maxwell were honored, Jonathan Hansen, Assistant Professor of Political Science, and Gretchen Purser, Assistant Professor of Sociology. So congratulations to them as well. We also have the 2013 Annual Master's Awards for students in the Masters of Arts in International Relations degree. The Department of Public Administration and International Affairs takes a moment each spring to recognize those students within the IR program whose achievements, actions, or spirit have advanced the mission of study of international relations at the Maxwell School. And the following students were nominated by their advisors, faculty, as peers as being worthy of commendation for the following achievements. First, the Academic Achievement Award to Selena Carter, an MAR, MPA, and MA in economics, all at one time, was recognized for her meritorious academic achievement at the Maxwell School. Ms. Carter achieved the highest academic performance among her peers, earning a 3.957 GPA over the 93 credits she pursued in 3 programs of study. It was also awarded the Foreign Language and Area Studies and Boren Fellowships to advance her study of Turkish language. She's currently working as the financial director at the Turkish Grameen Microfinance Program in Ankara, and we're delighted she's back on campus to celebrate the completion of her degrees and to serve as our student marshal representing Maxwell in Sunday's commencement ceremonies. The Leadership Award to Nyan Diep, the MAIR and MA Economics, recognizing her motivating spirit to support members of the international relations student community. Her commitment of time and energy to activities outside the classroom, especially in the roles of treasurer of the International Relations Student Association and senator of the Graduate Student Association, has contributed significantly to the advancement of the IR student community here at Maxwell. She was awarded an FLAS fellowship to study Hindi here at SU this past year and was in Washington last summer to pursue an internship with the Department of Commerce's International Trade Administration Division. The Teamwork Award to Rosa Vasileva, MAIR and MPA, recognized for her ability to collaborate creatively and work with diverse groups. Teamwork, as you can tell, is a skill that is honed here at Maxwell and one that Ms. Vasileva has called on frequently in her coursework within the program. She came to Maxwell 2 years ago as a Fulbright Fellow from St. Petersburg, Russia, and will be heading to DC upon graduation to continue her work with the World Bank team on open government and open data projects in Russia and other CSIS countries. And finally, the Julian Friedman Award to David Chaplin Jr., MAIR and MSPR. I didn't even finish mentioning all his degrees. He also got a JD. Well done. He's given this award to honor the spirit of internationalism which Professor Friedman's life represented. Mr. Chaplin's academic and professional achievements have focused on diplomacy and human rights issues, both of which were important to Professor Friedman, and obviously we're honored today by Professor Power, Special Assistant Power, whatever title she cares to have, honoree. Having spent this past spring term working with the Office of General Counsel for International Affairs at the U.S. Department of Defense, Mr. Chaplin has been able to leverage his previous experience with both the UN and the Department of Justice on human and civil rights cases. He plans to return to Washington, D.C. to prepare for the bar exam. My sympathies are with you. And hopes to become a Judge Advocate General with the U.S. Air Force. So once again, to all of our honorees, faculty, and students, a job well done. So we come to the conclusion of our program, which is the tradition here at Maxwell. And I'm going to ask all the students now, please to stand to join me in the recitation of the Athenian Oath, which we've had a chance to pay a tribute to here, and we'll read this in unison if we can manage that element of teamwork, which is something we've all learned here. So please join me in reciting, "We will ever strive for the ideals and sacred things of the city, both alone and with many. We will unceasingly seek to quicken the sense of public duty. We will revere and obey the city's laws. We will transmit this city not only, but greater, better, and more beautiful than it was transmitted to us." Congratulations to all of you. Let's all give them a round of applause. Well done, good luck, and I'd like to invite all of you, students, family, friends, faculty, staff, and all else to join us in the Maxwell foyer for a reception to honor the students. If you just follow the signs on your way out, you'll find your way back to Maxwell. Thanks all for coming for a wonderful occasion. Thank you.